Hi there, it's Mike Madge again. I'm back with SailJuice.com. We're continuing our series on looking at DN ice boat racing. Today we're going to be concentrating on equipment, what you need to get into the sport, all the way up to the top end if you're going to be working towards being the next world champion. And who better to have with us today than 5-time world champion, 14-time North American champion, and builder of arguably some of the best ice boating equipment in the world. And I have to throw in there recent U.S. champion. I have to be careful about that because I think that was a little different this year. We have Ron Sherry with us. Welcome, Ron, and thank you very much for joining us.
Glad to be here. Glad to promote the sport we love.
Yeah. So I think maybe we'll start by pointing out you also are owner of Composite Concepts, one of the biggest builders of ice boating equipment in the world. And you've got a great website. I mean, I know when I started the sport, that was my Bible. It was my go-to. Go to Ron's website because there's lots of stuff on that website from, well, maybe you could show us your website first and then talk a little bit about your website, please.
Great. Well, the website is a great tool. Deb Whitehorse is my webmaster and does the website for me. There's so much great information on there. You know, we talked about what we need to do if you're, just getting into the sport. And, that's where I would kind of start. For anybody who just wants to actually get into ice boating, the easiest way to do it is to buy a used boat. And there's all different levels of used boats. You can get a total beater where you can just go out and get rides for like $600, or you can get a good racing boat, one that you could compete with in a continental event for $2,500 to $3,500. So, and that's what I usually suggest people do who are just trying to get into the sport for the first time, to buy a used boat. And then, every Christmas you can add another component to the boat to start raising the level. And before you know it, you'll have 2 complete boats and one you can share with family or friends and that kind of stuff. So I think that's really the best and easiest way to get into it. And the used ice boat section on my website is free for anyone to check out. If someone wants to sell something, they just send me the information or send the information to webmaster@iceboatracing.com, put their pictures and what they're selling, how much they want for it, and their contact information. And it's free for anybody to do that. So if you want to sell some used equipment or buy used equipment, it's a great tool. So, and then,
I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you about, I mean, unlike, if you're a softwater sailor and you want to go out and buy a laser, I mean, all lasers are equal. A little bit different with DN ice boats. I think you would probably agree it's really important to talk to somebody that knows something about it to get the right boat for them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, kind of the biggest are more of an elliptical shape, and the new boats have a very long cockpit. You want to be able to have a long cockpit so you can lay down in the boat and get out of the wind. Be nice to have an adjustable tiller. Nice to be able to have adjustments for your plank to go forward at. Nice to be able to have a mast up adjustment. Nice to be able to have a pulley adjustment. All those things are, options that most of the race boats will have. And if you get a boat like that, it has the long cockpit and has a plank that's close for your weight and mast that's close for your weight, you can be competitive right away, and have a really fun time doing it. So that's some of the things you'd want to look at.
So I understand you've got some of your products out and available that you're going to take us through. Maybe we could start. I understand there's been some new developments in your hull shape. Maybe you can talk us through that a little.
I can do that. The other thing that I want to talk about with my website is there's some great tutorial videos. There's I was in Baikal, Siberia, Lake Baikal in Siberia, racing the Russian national championships in the Baikal Cup and the Pearl Cup. And I took a GoPro camera and mounted one looking forward and one looking back. And you can watch that video and see exactly what my thought process was while I was racing. Talks about the start, talks about racing, talks about getting around the snow, talks about mistakes I made and things that I did right. It's very a great video, wonderful video. There's also one from when I was racing in Estonia that and racing, having a great race with Karol Jablonski, and full video on that with captions as well that help you let you know what I was thinking. There's also the Rolling Stone video. That's a very entertaining video. And then going for the gold video that was done last year on out in Montana, which is another fantastic video. So, and also on the website, there's tuning guides, there's a setup guide, there's tuning tips. For the tuning tips takes you through, if you've got a boat, what to do to it to make sure that it's all ready to go and get the best you can out of it. The tuning guide lets you know what each adjustment on the boat, how it affects mass bend and performance. And that's all really good. There's just a bundle of information for anybody trying to get into the sport. So, and it's all for free. It's what I do. If you have any questions, just email me or call me or text me, and it's what I do. So I'd be glad to help you out with anything you need. So,
and the other thing I found,
so now,
the other thing I found interesting on your website was you also have stories of your regattas when you went to Gold Cups and World Championships and to North Americans, and you have stories, insightful stories to those that I found entertaining.
Yeah, that's kind of, those stories are awesome. They go through the shenanigans at nighttime as well as the racing and the preparation and the picking up the Europeans and some of the adventures that we've gone through traveling to and from regattas, things that happened on the road. I mean, it's the cult of ice boating, or whatever you want to call it, is just such a fun thing to do. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people who just want to set up their boats behind their house when they have good conditions, and that's fine. And, you know, there's 10 times more people that do that than actually chase the ice and race, you know, and go to the different regattas. But, and all of it's good, whichever level you want to be in, it's really the most fun thing you can do. So, yeah. So all of that stuff is available.
So you're standing in front of a pretty fancy looking hull there. Maybe you can take us through it.
This is what I call a original clone. I started building this shape hull in 1995. This is actually my son Griffin's hull. It was easiest to get out of the trailer. And this hull, we call it the clone, because I probably built 200 of these in very similar, just about the exact shape. The only difference is what I do with the inside and outside rails, depending on the size of the skipper and what he wants to do. They all have maximum length cockpits. The max width of the hull is very close to the seat back, so you can get down in there and fit your shoulders in the boat really nicely. This boat in particular has a crown in the bottom of it. The bottom's deck, it's actually got a crown in it. It's hard to necessarily see, but it goes up 3/4 of an inch underneath the mast step, and then zeroes out at the back and zeroes out at the front. So it actually pushes the mast step up in the air. This boat is pretty wide at the seat back so that you can, you know, fit in it, but it's not maximum width. And the front is pretty small, and the mast in the air, but the boat is pretty narrow top to bottom because of the crown in the bottom of the boat. So what this does is this makes for a lighter boat. It's easier to make this boat very close to minimum weight, and it's easier to, and it's a flexible hull. And you know, in my years of racing, I've liked the hull, plank, and mast to flex together. If you take a camera or just took your eye and went from the front looking towards the back when the boat's on the ice, and then I just sheet it in the sail without moving, the boat will go down flat because of the load of the mast pressure going onto the front deck. So when you this design is a flexible hull, and it helps you to absorb the puffs and turn it into energy. Jan Gujan said that he thinks this is just a great idea, because what would happen with this boat is when you're first trying to get the mast to pop out, you sheet it and the boat flexes, which makes the rig looser, which makes the mast go over the side more. And then once the mast gets popped out of column and the loads actually get lighter on the boat, then the boat would be less bent, and it would tighten the rig and bring the mast up higher. So there's a lot of smoke and mirrors that goes on with these things that some people may or may not realize. So it's a pretty interesting thing. I'm going to put this on the ground. And so then there's people who are different sizes and shapes. So I have actually 4 hull designs now, and these are the 4 patterns for the 4 different hull designs. This one on the top, as you can, I don't know how well you can see this, but you can see that it's a little bit smaller, you know, and that on this boat, the maximum curve is by the seat back, like I said. But so this is not as tall and a little bit narrower. So it's a little bit lighter boat. It might not be as good for a bigger person, 220-pound person, all that kind of stuff. And then after this boat, I made a hull for Jörg Bong, who's a big guy from Germany, everybody knows. And he didn't like this shape hull because he had a hard time staying in it, being, a plus size competitor. So I made a different hull for him that has maximum high sideboards and wider. That's the one that's on top here. You can see how much wider it is. So that's a different hull shape. And now this year, I worked together with Mike Bloom, Steve Orlebeck, and John Dennis. And the 3 of them sent me dimensions of hulls that they like. And so I'm just going to roll up Jorg's and yeah. So get rid of those 2. So this was kind of interesting. So it was very interesting. The 3 guys had different dimensions for their hull heights, sideboard heights, and their top view. So originally, they're trying to make boats that were all exactly the same. And I thought this was going to be great. We're going to use these guys to develop a new hull shape that everybody's going to love. So I worked with them, and it turned out that John Dennis wanted a different boat than Steve Orlebeck. So what ended up happening is, let's see, Steve Orlebeck wanted a boat that was minimum length, and John Dennis wanted a boat that was maximum length. They agreed on what they wanted as far as sideboard heights. So yeah. So the boats are the same from the bow to the seat back. You look at these, but John Dennis's boat is 6 inches longer. It goes to maximum length. So the boats are almost identical from the bow to the seat back, but then from the seat back aft, you can see the difference in the length. Might be better if I had this one on top. Can you see through there, Mike? Can you see that?
Yep.
So John Dennis wanted, he's getting a little bit older, and he wanted the extra leverage for trimming in the mainsail. And he didn't mind having the extra weight right in the back of the boat. So this boat obviously will have more wood in it, so it will weigh a little bit more than the Steve Orlebeck design. Steve was more like, I'm plenty strong enough, I'm good for this, and I'd rather have a lighter boat. So he went with the minimum length boat. And but I also made the height at the stern the same for both boats at the stern, so that they should be able to tune together. I mean, it's a little bit longer, but the height is the same. So when they go to adjust their main halyard, how much distance they are between the boom and the deck, and they can tune together and get similar results. So, what do you think about that, Mike?
Looks excellent. So I understand you were running with a newer boat at the U.S. Nationals that you just won.
Nope, I actually was using the hull was the clone that I built in 1995, because the newer one that was actually like my son's boat, I broke up on the Bay of Quinte at the Canadian Nationals last year. I went across the crack that was marked, and it was supposed to be safe outside the cones. And when I had a GoPro camera on, the bow bounced over, and the two side runners stopped, and the boat stretched out, which put more and more tension on the rig, and it actually broke the sideboard on both sides because the hull flexed the deck on. I had to completely rebuild that boat. So I just put the new, just clear coated my old clone this year, and used that boat, and it worked just great. I did build 6 new hulls this year, 2 of them being the John Dennis design, and 4 of them being the Steve Orlebeck design. And those were all out there racing, and the guys had, really loved the way they fit the boats. So one thing more about the hulls, the new design, it's got taller sideboards, and the max width is no longer at the seat back. It's moved further forward by about a foot. So what that does is it allows you to get your elbows down inside the cockpit a little bit easier. And they seem to really like that. Everybody's racing with softer masts and planks these days. So the hull isn't making as big a difference on the flexing part of it. They want a stiffer hull and more aerodynamic hull. And the other thing that happens with the newer masts and planks is that you end up running with the mast raked further forward. So now the sail's coming down lower and lower in the front end, and they're trying to get an end plate effect right along the hull, and they want to be as aerodynamic as possible. So it's important to try to get down in the cockpit below the sideboards, have the mast up in the air enough so you can get it in, sheet it in, block to block, and still have room for yourself underneath the boom. So the other thing that's new about this new JD is, yeah.
I'd say unbelievable. What a simple boat, but it can be quite complex.
Yep. You can see the pattern here has all the listings and bulkheads that I put in the boats. My boats are all made with Sitka spruce, and there's a big stack of it over here. I don't know if Trevor can show you that or not, but and Okumi 3mm plywood mahogany decks. All that stuff is got great grain strength and really light. The other thing that's new about the new JD and Steve Orlebeck boat is that I pushed the steering post for where the steering chuck goes maximum aft. On the clone, it's 6 inches aft. On these new ones, it's 7 inches aft. And the thing that everybody needs to remember is that the number 4 bulkhead is measured from the bow. The seat back, the mast step, the hull, the plank fittings are all measured from the front chalk. So by moving that front chalk back an inch, I can make the cockpit 2 inches longer. And the guys really like that for being able to get forward and get out of the wind. So that's something else that's new about the new boats as well.
Unbelievable. Looks great, Ron. Well, we appreciate that, Ron. And next time we chat, I appreciate all the talk on the new hull. I want to get back to you. We want to next time we'll go through the masts. We'll take a look at your runners and what's needed for a complete package, putting it all together.
Great. I'm here, ready to go.